Hi, I'm Kelly Cervantes, and this is Seizing Life, a bi-weekly podcast produced by Citizens United for Research in Epilepsy, CURE. Today, with the current situation amid the coronavirus pandemic, we are bringing you Seizing Life in a slightly different way. Instead of our usual setting, we are observing stay-at-home orders and social distancing by recording our episode remotely. In these unprecedented times, we are all challenged to adapt to a new normal. But for those with epilepsy or other medical conditions that put them in high-risk categories, there are additional challenges and concerns. Today, we're talking to Jessica Rosini and her mother, Beth Scolis, who care for Jessica's 5-year-old son, Dominic, who suffers from a rare form of epilepsy. Additionally, Jessica has 2 other children, all of whom are at home during the pandemic. They are Zooming with us today to talk about navigating these difficult times with a special needs child. Jessica, Beth, thank you for taking the time to connect with us today. And we are here today, we're talking about your son Dominic and your grandson, and some of the amazing work that you've been doing, and basically about how COVID is affecting your family at this time. So to get things going though, I'd love to just get your origin story. How did epilepsy come into your life?
Sure. So my husband Chris and I have 3 children. Francesca is 6, Dominic is 5, and Christian is 4. So our Dominic was a happy, healthy, neurotypical little boy. And then right before his 3rd birthday, he had his first seizure. And in a 2-month period, he went from completely fine to developing 4 different seizure types, being placed on 4 different anti-epileptic medications, and having up to 1,000 seizures a day. So needless to say, he had an extremely explosive onset. So that first year of his diagnosis, he was ambulanced 9 times, hospitalized 11 times, had to be emergency helicoptered at one point. So he was eventually diagnosed with Doose syndrome, or myoclonic astatic epilepsy, which I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's one of those rare types of pediatric epilepsies that presents with multiple seizure types and is notoriously resistant to medication, which we've experienced. So he was eventually placed on a medical version of the ketogenic diet, which has helped tremendously. It's really saved his life. We just celebrated 1 year daytime seizure free. So that was a huge, yeah, it was a huge.
Congratulations, that's huge.
It was, like I said, he was having seizures every 30 seconds, at one point throughout the day. So yeah, so we're still working on the nighttime stuff, but we are so grateful to have clocked that time, a whole year without anything while he's awake during the day. So yeah, huge accomplishment.
Now, how have the seizures affected his cognitive and physical development?
Yeah, so like I said, he was a totally happy, healthy, neurotypical kid before all of this started. Yeah, he was doing like 48-piece jigsaw puzzles independently at 2. Like it was almost kind of like freaky. We're like, yeah, so he's
gonna be the smart one.
Yeah. So so now he receives OT, PT, and speech. That seems to be his muscle tone has kind of been the where he's been affected the most. Cognitively, we just had him reevaluated for his IEP, and cognitively he still is on track. He's age appropriate. He was in pre-K this year until, obviously this happened and school stopped. But yeah, he was on track as far as, his cognitive abilities, which is, again, kind of a miracle considering, the tens of thousands of seizures that he suffered.
It's really amazing. I mean, I can't even imagine, having your brain reset. We had an epileptologist one time that sort of explained it to us because our daughter was having very frequent seizures as well. And he was like, it's as if someone is flipping the light switch on and off.
Yeah.
And the time they flip it back on, you're a little disoriented. And, so having that happen through those formative developmental years. I mean, it's really remarkable and so amazing that he's able to still start kindergarten on schedule, which I'm sure, yeah.
Right. I know.
I can't even imagine. That's got to be so terrifying for you, especially given, you didn't get to finish this school year in a school, and now he's going to be going to a new school, I imagine. Talk to us about that and sort of how your fears and anxiety and how COVID has affected that.
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the biggest hurdles that we're dealing with right now, because you're right, he is going to a new school. Right now he goes to, a private pre-K that's basically around the block from our house for 2.5 hours. And in our district, kindergarten is a full day. So, he's going to be going to a new school, a full day kindergarten. And our school district is so wonderful. My mom actually teaches in the school district. So that's definitely a leg up for me, because she's a special education teacher. So I kind of have some, inside scoop on what to do. Yeah. So, so the district is so wonderful, and they were allowing me, I've already had a couple of meetings kind of prepping them for Dominic's arrival next year. And they were allowing me to come in and at the end of the school year, seizure train the entire staff, educate them about the diet, and just kind of give a picture overall about him, because, and obviously that's not happening anymore. So we're kind of, trying to find ways around that and how we're going to proceed with making sure that they're ready for him.
That has to be terrifying, but it has some comfort. Now, Beth, are you in the school that he will be going to? Or
I am not. I'm in the middle school, but in my background, I have the early intervention experience, and the people in our district that are doing it, when Jessica and I met with them, there were familiar faces there. And we know that they're going to look out for him just like they do everybody else.
Of course. And, you mentioned he gets PT and OT and speech therapy. How are you maintaining those therapies? It's not as if you can get them at school, or he can go to a clinic, or you can have people come in the home.
Mm-mm.
And we just are so fortunate to work with such wonderful people. All of his therapists are just amazing. So we've switched over to, teletherapy. So through Zoom, meeting with his therapist and just trying to come up with the best way to still, access the services that he needs, because he was just making such wonderful progress. We want to make sure that we're maintaining that. And it's very different, being home as opposed to it being a more structured school setting, and the expectations are there that this is what he needs to be doing and things like that in that routine. So we're just trying to, it's kind of just a trial and error thing right now. It is going well as far as the teletherapy so far. We have to see if the novelty wears off with that, and it's kind of, and I know that other parents of special needs or medically complex kids are kind of feeling the same way, that now it's just a little bit more on our shoulders than we already have, so we're kind of having to step up a little bit more. We have all these hats that we wear as parents of special needs children or medically complex children. So now we're, we just put a PT hat on sometimes now, an OT hat, speech, all of that. So we're just doing.
You still have 2 other children who's doing homeschooling, and one I assume is just sort of
glued to your hip.
That sounds age appropriate.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Because that was when everything shut down. I have to say that was one of my very first thoughts, was thinking of all of the special needs and medically complex parents out there, and seeing all of the parents of neurotypical kids get overwhelmed with homeschooling. And I was like, yeah, it is overwhelming, but you add on to that the PT and the OT and the speech. You add on to that, having to do telehealth with the doctors, or having to ask for additional months of prescriptions with your insurance. And it just, I could feel the weight and the anxiety. And so I just, first I want to say you're both superheroes and superstars and super moms. And I think
back
about
at ya.
guys in this community all the time, every moment of every day. So how are you holding up? How are you managing? What, is there any tricks that you've learned that sort of help you figure this out? Is your husband home? How are you making it work?
So no, my husband is, considered essential personnel. So he is still going to work. And like a lot of the things that you
have the income, but then of course you are by yourself.
Right. Yeah. So yes, you're right about that. It is a blessing. But yeah, and kind of a lot of the things that you said, just with, trying to access his medication and getting, larger quantities of it to limit the amount of trips we have to make to the pharmacy and things like that, which means, I'm sure those phone calls to insurance, which turn into hours and hours of, trying
because to so much extra time on your hands, don't you? You want to spend your
nails
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's definitely that, and the therapies are different, and it is, and of course the obvious worrying about him getting sick. He's been, the common cold has landed him in the ICU before to get supported breathing. So, there's that worry there. And then there's the worry that if I get sick, because while my husband is wonderful, we're a great team, he's super hands-on, but all of the diet and the medications and the prescriptions, all of that, that's all, up here. That's, that's my thing. I do that.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to create a Google Doc with everything. If God forbid, I would get sick or be out of commission, things like that. But it's funny because I started to realize that I'm kind of doing better than most people I know, as far as handling this. And I was really, I was thinking about it a lot, like, why is that, And I think it's because we've been here before, at the blink of an eye, our lives changed completely. I've done that before, not being able to leave the house. Like I said, the first year of his diagnosis, we couldn't leave the house. I had these 3, small children, and Dominic was seizing constantly. We were stuck in the house for a year with that. So, I walked this path a little bit before in some sense. I definitely see a parallel, and I found, talking to other parents who are in similar situations as us kind of feel the same way. Like, this is like old news, sister, story of my life, So I can see that, not to say that we don't face additional challenges because of, the medical complexity of Dominic, and,
you're just better equipped to handle them. You have, I think, tools, the mental tools at the ready.
That's what I said. I think I just am kind of adapted to crisis mode. I think that I just am kind of like, all right, like, this is what's happening. What can we do about it? And just trying to, make it and maintain everything the best way I can for my family. So, like I said, not to negate the challenges and, the toll on, everybody's kind of, dealing with things differently as far as this pandemic and the toll on mental health, being stuck at home and things like that. But yeah, I kind of just feel like I have some things in my tool belt that your average person or your average parent kind of doesn't have. Lucky for them, but
yeah. Beth, are you able to co-quarantine? Are you able to help? How are you?
I am blessed that I can. As a teacher who does remote learning, I have some flexibility there. I have quarantined myself. There are no more walks with friends. My husband's retired, so he is home too. So we can go over and give a little, I go over and give a little support. I go nowhere else. I get my groceries picked up at curbside. So we're doing our part to stay quarantined, but it definitely does, I think, help that I'm able to go and support Jessica and Chris and those three angels. We're lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to imagine, just as being a mother yourself and being able to help your own daughter. I mean, you love those grandbabies, but at the end of the day, that's your baby girl who's managing this crazy ship that is going through a hurricane of a storm.
Agreed. Watching their struggles has definitely put a different layer on this for my husband and I. But we could not be more proud of them. They rise to every occasion. I have never seen a more talented and just stronger advocate for Dominic than watching those two go to bat for him. The research that they have to do for everything, because he is so rare, and now like Dominic's getting ready to wean another med. There isn't a whole lot out there for them. So watching them just delve into that and really look for the answers that they need is impressive, to say the least. But we are so blessed. We really have the 3 Fs. We have our faith, we have a super supportive family, and we have the best friends that will send TikToks to make you laugh, or they come when needed.
So I want to dive a little deeper into how your life has changed on a more micro level with COVID coming into the picture and needing to quarantine. You have all 3 of your children are at home. They are spending more time together. But they're probably also seeing another side of their brother's epilepsy. Have they said anything to you? Do they notice things? Has it affected them at all?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Francesca. Like I said, my daughter's 6, and she's in 1st grade. And she remembers before epilepsy came into the picture. So she's very aware of, that Dominic was fine. And now, these are the struggles that he has. And school was just always an escape for her. Like I said, he's been daytime seizure free, he's running, he's playing, he's a lot of ways a very typical 5-year-old. But, he did, the diet's very difficult for him. He suffers a lot of GI symptoms. He vomits a lot. He recently in November had a G-tube placed, because he was already a picky eater before all of this. And now having, mayonnaise-based foods, 90% of his calories are coming from mayonnaise, butter, heavy whipping cream, and oil. So it's not very palatable for an already picky eater. So yes, he has a G-tube now. So she's seeing, she's just home more, and she's very sensitive. And she's very in tune with, my energy and my stress level. So I really have to make sure that I'm kind of taking care of myself too, because she can sense when, if I've been up all night, he's having a little bit of a rough patch. He had 6 seizures the other night. So I was up and he threw up twice, in an overnight period. So obviously I didn't get a whole lot of sleep. But then, she's there, she's not going to school. She's there all day to kind of see the ramifications of a sick brother, a tired mom. So she doesn't always verbalize it, but she senses it, and she can definitely pick up on those things.
Yeah, those older siblings, we learned very quickly that Jackson could understand and heard a lot more than we thought he did. And then
he hears everything.
They do. They see it all, and they're processing it in their own, 6-year-old way. But
yeah. She did ask me the other day, she said, Mommy, what if Dominic gets the coronavirus? So, and I don't know if she heard me talking about my worry about that. I try and, be aware and conscientious of what I'm saying in front of her, because like you said, they really do pick up on everything. You got to really watch it. So, and we've always just tried to be very honest as well, and give her, like, kind of equip her with information so she's not left to kind of guess or wonder, and tell her all of the things that we're doing to make sure that doesn't happen, things like that, and reassure her that we're being safe and that's why we're staying home, and those kinds of things.
That's so smart. Now, so you mentioned that Dominic is on the ketogenic diet. He is also on some other medications. What is your medication process right now? You mentioned having some difficulty with the pharmaceuticals. Are you going into the doctor's office still? How are you managing all of that?
We are not. We had a slew of appointments scheduled that were all canceled, because some of them were like the neurogenetic clinic, to kind of catch up on, because that research is advancing so quickly, and he hasn't had genetic testing done in a while. So we were planning on doing that. A DEXA scan that would test his bone density being on the ketogenic diet for 2 years. That was canceled. We have our keto and neurology appointment coming up next month, and there hasn't been anything said about that. So I don't know. I think it just depends on what's happening as far as restrictions. I would imagine that we could do it, a video appointment for that. But he also gets frequent blood work, which is honestly my biggest concern, just based on the meds that he's on and the diet. We do have to monitor a lot of things. So, he's due for those next month. So, that's just a conversation that has to be had with his doctors, and, kind of weighing the risk versus benefit.
I can imagine how difficult that decision is going to be, to have to make, balancing COVID and just regular care of your son. Now, I have also been made aware that you guys are pretty phenomenal advocates on your own. Talk to me about Dominate Epilepsy.
In a world where there's so little that I can actually do for Dominic, and there's so little control over epilepsy, we had to find something to give us and know that we were doing something to make a difference in the world. My state rep, Chris Quinn, is amazing. We have HB 1820, which on March 16th was to be voted on in the Education Committee at 10:30. That morning is when COVID shut down Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. It was heartbreaking, but I know it's for seizure smart schools. As a special education teacher, I was totally unaware of the number of different types of seizures kids could have. I was unprepared, and I have learned so much through Dominic. He has taught us enormously, but it also showed what a void there is in the public education system.
Absolutely.
So it is to ensure that school personnel are trained in seizure recognition and response so that our kids are safe. Just in my state alone, we have almost 17,000 kids who have epilepsy. And as a teacher, we're with them sometimes more waking hours than their parents. So we want to make sure that everybody is prepared for that. And we had a rally scheduled for March 23rd to State Rep Quinn also put through a resolution to recognize March 26th as Purple Day in our state. So we were rallying to do that. And we do a Dominate Epilepsy fundraiser for Purple Day, and such support comes out from family, friends, the vendors, donations come in, and we were disappointed that we are postponing. It'll happen, and cure is our heart now. That's where our drive is. We need a cure for Dominic and for all the other warriors out there.
I could not agree with you more.
I was going to say, Kelly, I'm sure you can relate to that, to being in a situation where you just have no control over what's happening to your child. And one of the most therapeutic things that I have found to do is to help somebody else, you know, or, you know, raise awareness or raise funds. It's so unbelievably therapeutic to just find something good in such a horrible situation. Mm-hmm. And now that's kind of gone with the things that we had to cancel, but then you came along and, you know, asked to talk to us.
Now you get to share your story here. And we're just so thrilled. You ladies bring up so many incredible points. You have such bright spirits. I think people, they hear of Doose or of infantile spasms or SCN1A, and, you know, these are rare disorders, but epilepsy in and of itself is not rare. You know, 1 in 26 will be diagnosed, and these are the things that, you know, we have to remember, and we have to keep our kids safe in school, and that starts with educating the teachers and the professionals who are in those buildings. And so I am crossing fingers for you that once we are on the other side of this and governments and schools can open their doors again, that I know that we will see the Dominate Epilepsy bill get passed, and that will all be in thanks to you two. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming on and chatting with me today, for being the warriors that you are. We're just, you know, I'm sorry that you are a part of this crappy club, but goodness, are we happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica and Beth, for sharing your story, insights, and advice on navigating these difficult days with a special needs child. At this moment, we are all trying to adapt to circumstances that none of us could have prepared for and remain hopeful in the face of the unknown. For those who have epilepsy or care for loved ones with epilepsy, this is their reality every day, wondering and worrying when the next seizure will strike, where they will be, how it will affect them, hoping they will be okay. Cure knows the only way to alleviate these fears is by finding cures. During these challenging times, Cure remains focused on its mission on funding research that will lead us to breakthroughs in understanding and treating epilepsy. The work being done in labs today will bring new treatments to hospitals in the future. We hope you will be a part of our mission by donating at cureepilepsy.org/donate. Your generosity is greatly appreciated. Thank you.